Hello, I'm Aranda, and this is Late Night Right. And boy, my volume seems to be working just fine today. There we go, we'll make that a little bit easier. Alrighty. So, Kaz isn't going to be here tonight, because it seems like the area that she is in, no matter what they call high speed, she doesn't have it. So, even local things that where she is dropping out, stuff like this. So, um, until she moves to a different location, it looks like I'll be taking care of things on this end. Which is okay. We both know how the story is going to be moving and how it's going to be going, so we're not too worried about that. It just, sometimes I guess it just works easier to just work with the situation you have rather than go nuts trying to fix something you can't fix. So for now, this is what we're going to have to do. And on that score, alrighty, I'm going to share the screen now, because I figured out a couple of things during the week that we were working on before. So I am going to be doing those changes as we go. Just simply because it's easier to do them now than it would be to come back to it, say, 2 months from now or something, to do a rewrite and try to remember everything that you were supposed to do, even if you do have notes, right? Sometimes that specific perfect word or perfect segment of a sentence or a perfect piece of dialogue, um, just you're not going to remember it the way you did the first time, so you will alter it, even though the first one was probably way, way, way better, right? So let's see. I need to go back here and check out what we did with Matthew and Sean here on the computer. Alrighty. Okay. Okay. And then we're talking about the computer itself at this moment. And see if we can't. Alright. So this here, Sean's gaming name. Okay, we are going to make him his gamer name. Is going to be Slavia. And okay, so we're switching on the computer screen. Pardon me. Okay, so slaughter site cohorts. So this would be Sean's way of telling Michael that where you are is a slaughter site, and the courts are needed. Rather than trying to figure out a new word for location, coordinates, something like that, instead I figured, wait a minute, why don't we just run it with a term that they would use a place that is the next place they're going to attack if they're in a game. So it would be the next slaughtered, or slaughter site 1, or B, or whatever, whichever way you want to lay it out, and whichever way the individual games lay it out. Because everybody, some use the same terminology with it meaning different things, and some use completely different terminology to use in place of what everybody else is using. So you have different words meaning the same as what the other words are on this other one. There. And then we change this, not just incoming quest, because an incoming quest could mean anything, right? It could be, Michael could take it as, oh, Sean is setting up a new setup for night. You know, Michael's not going to be there, obviously, so he would just assume that this is dead for the next time they for the next time they game. But making it specific to you, the new quest is to you, to Michael. So that's what it. That's how we're gonna lay it out. Another way of doing it is incoming quest to say, okay, we got slaughter lead, slaughter 1, slaughter M for Mike. There's a multitude of names that could be used. You know, just that I can think of offhand. But this is a little bit more personal because it isn't about gaming night. It literally is about to you. So in that way, we give this double purpose. This one, just this one little, two short little sentences, and it gives a double purpose for how it's going to lay out and what's expected. Because that's more important, what Sean expects from Michael. Like another review copy, what are your coordinates? Right? This is what Sean's trying to find out. And of course, like you said, now we wait and see if it hits. You know, because he's going to wait to see if he's actually going to track the ping. Is what he's going to do. He's going to track it to see where it goes, like how many seconds it takes before it literally hits Michael's phone. Now, do we want to show that online? Even we could probably in some way, shape, or form. But that's going to be one of those things that is called an effect, which means either look at it, it's going to cost money to you know, set it up, to do it, to get a program that does it, or does something in a similar way that we can modify on the actual computer to make it do a countdown of sorts, or rather a tally of sorts, because it can't count down from a number it doesn't know. Alrighty, but what I will do is there we go. Possible computer program to show the timing. Um, and that'll be something that's we see physically either in the background or we do a super on it and we totally focus on it. That's giving your director two options to play with, or actually he can use both options. He can do a super on it as it's moving, but we can also see it working on the computer in the background at the same time that is not a super, right? So either way, that makes things choices. You know, if you only have the ability to do a super on something you see, you know, ticking off numbers as it goes, um, rather than seeing it working in the background, you can do that. Okay. Alrighty, so of course Matthew assumes Michael's in stealth mode, so he probably won't answer. Yeah, and then he's going to check in with 10. Alrighty. And of course, Matthew is sitting there watching all this and what Dad had done, what keying he was doing in order to make this work, and where he was going to, and the whole bit. Alright, and then we went to the kitchen. Now, I know this is going to be one of those things that we have, the Kaz and I will have fun tearing apart and putting together again, because it comes down to dialogue. And what the people are going to say, how they're going to say it, because some of this stuff is too much on the nose. I know that, Kaz knows that, but we needed to have the intent set up in the story, and in this particular part, because there's specifics that need to come in here, and that need to be known. And this way, if we know what it is that needs to be known, how we want to lay it out, it makes it much easier to modify the dialogue later. Because we might choose to have it as seeing something being done rather than saying it. Which is, you know, show, don't tell, right? That's what most good storytelling is. Show us, especially when it comes to movies. Show us your moving picture. Show us what's happening you're doing. So all of this conversation is going to work out pretty good. And then we go to Michael. He tests the cables, right? He glances at the phone, but he knows he cannot answer it. Which means he might answer it later. We don't know. Because he knows himself that his phone is being completely tracked. He already knows this. So unless he can figure out a way that it can't be tracked within the building, then he cannot answer back, right? So he goes back to testing all his electricity levels on his phone app, you know, for all of this cabling and all that good stuff. That, and that's where we left it off. Alrighty. Okay. See, one of the notes that we had here is, can they scatter a signal to not get caught? Now this comes down to, this is after Sean and Matthew leave. Or at least it's part of their conversation. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so Sean digs into the computer and is able to find sewer systems, stuff like this. Alrighty, so that's the next setup that we're going into. So, in this, we're gonna have to bring okay, so we're gonna put us onto the next day. Or maybe we should just do it later that same day. Like moments later or something like that. Yeah, moments later. That's a day icon. And this is moments later. And we're going to put it down here. Okay, now what do we want to have people doing before we see Matthew rushing? Because they're already at the table here. Alrighty, what if we set this up? And he tells Matthew to go check the pen. So Sean tells Matt to go check the ping right. Matthew is about to argue because he's at the adult table and having the adult conversation here, and he wants to stay there, right? So he's not leaving Theo anytime soon. He wants to argue. Sean pins him with a direct look. Okay, so Matthew gets up and saunters out of the kitchen. He resigned. Not happy though. How about instead of that, resign insolent. Alright, I like that much better. Alright, so and then that takes us to Michael testing the cables. After this point, the ping happens here, so we got notes here that Matthew comes rushing in. Okay, so everybody else is still doing the same things we're doing, but because we changed scene, we still have to pull everybody back in here. Okay, so everybody turns as Matthew rushes in, because I mean, if he rushed in, that means he was running down the hall, so they're gonna hear him coming. And I'm pretty sure there might be some dialogue in there somewhere, somebody saying, what the heck? Or that was faster, or something, right? So, in this time they're talking, and that's 1 minute. Yeah. So we'll say 2 minutes, 15 seconds or something. Yeah, 2 minutes 14. Okay, Andrew looks to a drawer, then to Olivia. Olivia smiles to herself. Olivia smiles to herself and then nods. Okay, so, Sean goes to a second sheet of paper and calculates furiously. Well, obviously, he's doing the math on the paper. Andrew looks to a drawer, then to Olivia. Olivia smiles to herself and then nods. And Andrew gives her a wry shake of his head and goes to the drawer without a calculator and gives it to Sean. um, and then Sean doesn't say anything. He just slides the calculator closer and starts using it, and between the calculator and the paper, he gets everything figured out. Okay, now, going to see Logan, you know, um, having dried his hands, obviously, moves in to see what and how Sean works. Because Sean is going between calculator and paper, calculator and paper, calculator and paper. Whereas Logan and even Matthew would not even consider using the paper in any way, shape, or form. It would be something that they would do completely either on the calculator or on their phone or on a computer, because that is that's just the way things are. If you were never taught how to do it on paper, you wouldn't even think to do it on paper. That would be the point. And then Sean sits back. And of course, we will be seeing Logan and Sean in that two shot for both of these. And Logan just says, well. He says 40 kilometers, give or take. Alrighty. Alrighty. So Olivia says maps. Matthew wins and is out. So obviously he had seen the map somewhere in the journeying around, looking and checking out the place. And so pretty much I'm guessing we may have to go back and actually place maps, atlas type maps, in one of the rooms we know for sure that Matthew has been in. So it's obviously got to be either the cloth storage type room. Yeah, that's the craft materials, patterns, all that stuff is in there. Does it seem logical that it would be there? Not really. Other than the fact it would be something that's only used once in a while. Probably the better idea would be in the computer room, because the only thing that's really in there is the computer and the physical setup that Michael built around the room. So I'm guessing we're gonna have to put some, I don't know, some bookshelves or kits or something along that lines into that actual room, so that's something you see when you come in, just as an incidental. Okay, let's write this down on here. This is this is what I call making sure we don't forget pertinent details that we're going to need to move forward. And sometimes you don't know where those details need to be until you come up with the solution, right? That's just part of it. You um, you have, this is a payoff of a sort, because well, look, they only been there a day, and Matthew already knows where to find these maps. So that'll be um, one of the one of the little payoffs. But we have to go back to the setup and play in an area where we know it, even though we don't notice it when we go into that room. Just like Matthew might not have noticed it, but he subconsciously he did. Or maybe when him and Sean were working in there, he was looking around and he saw there were maps on the count on, you know, on this cabinet or something, right? It might, you know, and it just be that there's a folded out map on the wall or something. So we will have to figure out how that goes, whether it's going to be in a cabinet, is it folded up and pinned to a board or hooked? Is there a string on it? It's been hooked onto something, so that it's sitting there and it's noticeable, but it subconscious, you wouldn't think of it immediately, but if you have to stop and think about it, it's like, yeah, I saw that. Right? After the fact. And of course, we have to be there from the very first time that we go into that room. We can't we can't go in there when the first time, have it not be there, but all of a sudden it's there when Matthew and Sean come in. It can't be. It's got to be something that would be its normal spot, regardless of who's there. It isn't something you just throw in for this one scene because they happen to be in that room. No, you have to be in that room in every single shot that has to do with the computer room. Every single shot, with buts or maybes. It's got to be there, or you it you have inconsistencies. And believe it or not, that's one of those little things that tend to draw people out of the story. You know? Because all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, something's missing. Or wait a minute, was that there over there? And this is what they're thinking at the time they're watching the movie instead of watching the movie, right? Because subconsciously we all do that. It is human nature, which is a great. says, "Guess we're eating wild tonight," because he knows what's coming. Yeah, he know he knows his family, and he knows he knows Sean enough because it would be the same thing Michael would be. So, I mean, if you're pulling out a map, that map's being laid out all over the table, which means we are eating at the table. And everybody is, grabbing food as they go, you standing, checking, stuff like that. And, because what they're going to have to do now is they're going to have to, once the map comes in, Sean questions wild. Like, we mean eating wild. Um, and Andrew says, "You think anyone's sitting at the table with maps on it?" Olivia says, "Not in my house." Okay, so Sean laughs, and he grins to Matthew as he comes in with a folded old road map. Alrighty, and together they lay the map out on the table. Alrighty. Um, Sean looks down at the map and says, "And we are." Andrew says, "Right here." And he puts a finger on the spot. And of course, on that he puts his finger in a spot in the middle of nowhere. So he's not near a town, not near a city. This is literal open land, and the, when you've got a map, it does show houses, so that's not a deal. So I guess we should actually put latitude and longitude. And I'm going to put just going to say Andrew's latitude and longitude. Um, the numbers are going to come first. So this is one of those dialogues that is definitely going to change because we have to add in those specific coordinates. So from there, um, that's the spot that is your 0 point, and now they're going to have to make a circle 40 miles out, all the way around, right? A whole circle all the way around. So they know where the limit is. Okay, so he's within this limit, and probably something that's along the curve of the circle is where the ping went. That's how far it traveled before it hit like this one. So that'll be latitude, and longitude is your 0 point. But we have to have the actual numbers there. And for that, guess what? I have to pull out a map. And then I could tell you exactly where. So I'm guessing alright. So Sean tells Logan, put your finger there. Um, and he asks, you got a ruler? And it says measuring tape, dude. He cheeks with Sean. Alrighty. So Andrew chuckles while he grabs measuring tape from another drawer. Maybe it should be the same drawer. I don't know. We'll see. Depends on how many drawers there are to be happy. Alrighty. So from here, we can decide whether or not we want to see Sean drawing out the circle, or just come back to a circle being drawn with pencil on the map. Because it would have to be a pencil, because at least that you can erase if you use the map for something else. So maybe we fix that up. Yeah, we'll just do it here. Pencil and paper. And that's Olivia grabs a pen and paper and sets them on the table for Sean. He pulls them over and starts to jot down products. Okay. And then that just sets us up. Cat's pigeons. That sets up perfectly for here. Because that's the only thing Sean has to write with is pencils, so that's what they're using. Alright. So, do we want to go somewhere else? Or do we want to continue this to see what is they're going to do and how they're going to lay this out? It's going to be... Um, alrighty. I'm going to put later. Okay, so we're going to dirty dishes. Okay, so we're going to have dirty dishes stacked around near the sink behind them. So we're going to know it's going to come from one side, and it's going to show everything, everybody, so it's going to be a full shot, right? Regardless of whether I mark that up as a shooting represent full shot, doesn't matter. The Just by how it was described here, any director should understand that all of the people have to be within the shot, and you have to have these dishes behind them by the sink. Even if you don't see the sink, you know that where the sink is located. So that's an angle shot that's going to line up. It's one of those kind of things. Okay, so Sean taps his pencil on the map while he studies the south side of the circle. Now, specifically, I guess southeast. Side of the circle. Because if I'm going to write in my latitudes and longitudes, I have to make sure I know where I'm talking about, in what part of the country, and like literally where it is, and how many kilometers it would be to make it into the city. So there's got to be stuff along parts of the city have to actually be within this diameter. And this is the area that Sean is studying. It is what is in that physical part that's in the city. Um, because I mean, there's stuff like a garage, um, a school, something like that. Um, there's all kinds of different types of buildings that would be impossible to do this in, because there would be too much public and too many employees and whatnot that it just it could not be done. Could not be done. It could be done, but could not be done quietly and in a way that is not suspicious. So and it's got to be one of these things that only works because there are not very many people in the actual building, or there's not many people who even know about this other area that's in the basement that they think is um, the custodians, you know. Um, they would basically think of it as, people would have to think of it as literally as a basement, and they're never going down there. And so I mean, so it's got to be something that would have an area that is possibly underground. It doesn't have to be specifically, but we know from how we have set up Imaji where where that floor is, right? But these guys don't know that, so they're gonna have to figure out their own assumptions and what type of building or what type of business might be a logical choice, um, to need some kind of thing done that only Michael could do. They would have to have a reason for it to be only him. He's the only one that could be the key to this project, and it's just the way we're going to have to work it, because it's just, so these are going to be questions that these guys are going to have to be pulling up all the way along the line, and of course those are going to be obviously those are going to be things we got to figure out, and we will definitely do that, because this is going to be a critical type of moment, but it's also going to allow us, um, to show how the different people's minds work, and what their first, um, what they assume would be the place compared to, um, well, to each other, really, to literally to each other, because if you have a mall, for example, yeah, those have basements. They have plenty of space. Um, that could be a place where something could be done. A garage isn't. A convenience store isn't. Um, a little strip mall or something. No, that's not going to do it. Um, and just because of what they know Michael built in Olivia's computer room, and that's just for a single person. So one of the questions they're going to be asking is, well, how many people is this going to be for? So guess who's grading us? And these notes will inform us on what kind of questions we're going to have, right? Okay, so that's one question. And okay, I'm going to jot down a few places here. Okay, mall, convenience store. We could have a school. And that would be things that have the yeses and the nos. The places that might be big enough to accommodate, and the places that would be definitely a no. You know, like residential areas is probably going to be a no, right? Unless there's been some kind of recent knockdowns of buildings and major underground construction going on, like within the city limits. But then a lot of people would notice that there's big construction going on here. So that would likely be the thing. So it would probably have to be an existing building, would have to be their primary primary target, yeah. I think so. So, um, could a warehouse do it? I don't know. It would all depend on how solid built the warehouse is and how secure you can keep that warehouse if that was going to be a warehouse. So those would be some of the questions and the conversation they would have about it. There's some pretty heavy duty ones, you know, and it's a possibility. So what about an airport? That's a possibility too. Just because there's all kinds of areas in airports that are not used, and well, they're used for literally for tech these days. So that would make for an automatic good spot to play. Hmm. What do you think? A casino? Hey, anything goes, right? Okay, and and then maybe Sean moves into the business sector, and or maybe that's what he's looking for in the first place. Like, where is Imagi? And there might be something back of twigging in the back of his mind, right? Right. And it's literally to look for Imagi Incorporated. Um, so, I mean, he's going to need to know where they are located specifically. So that's giving us a good 10 options that we're going to play with next week. And on these, you know, I probably will give it some extra work in between. And see if we can't lay out who would be choosing what kind of location and why. So this is what we need to know of all the characters that are around this table. The where and the why. And even if they don't know the why, like just gut instinct, whatever, if, or if it's just a place that you would be familiar with, or something, a place where you would, I don't know. It all depends on where your mind goes. Like for example, Matthew and Logan, both being younger, do will we have one of them thinking this place because they don't like that place? You know, they got a bad feeling about that place, so they think bad things happen there. And you have the one saying, "Oh, it must be this place," because they like that place. They're comfortable with that place. That place is safe to them. So that means, well, if it's there, Michael must be okay. So this is all the kind of things that are going to play back and forth on the characters. But I think those two physical extremes should be with the two boys. Hmm. Alrighty. See, I just by thinking that, I thought, okay, well, if the football stadium or hockey rinks are anywhere within that circle, that would be Matthew thinking this is good, or rather, maybe Matthew thinking this isn't good. You never know, but it gives them a better opportunity for them having a reason why it's good or why it's bad. On the good side, it might be because they've gone there, they've watched games there, they maybe played there. On the second, on the other side, it may be that yeah, one of them played there, and maybe all the change rooms are down in the basement, and maybe it's a disgusting basement, and they don't like it there. It's as simple as that: a good feeling or a bad feeling, right? That's kind of the way we're going to play it on that. So I think this is, even though I didn't do a heck of a lot of typing today, we got a whole heck of a lot of stuff done and figured out, and now we know where to go ahead and take this all forward. Because now we can take it all forward because we have a better idea of where we're going with it and the kind of concept and the kind how the next scene is going to start, what it's going to build up to. The climax is going to be them choosing Imaji or Imagy, whichever way you want to say it. Um, just a simple fact that that was the last order that came in. Michael made the deal, and as soon as that order is gone, like Michael's gone. So gut instinct, assumptions, possibly, but where better to find out, okay, what happened to the stuff, all this tech stuff, and all these pieces that had been specially made for them and sent to them, and to see if they stayed in house. See if that tech all stayed in. If that tech all stayed in house, they know he's there. because he's going to be wherever that tech is. Because Michael knows that tech inside out and backwards, and there's very few people who would have a use for that type of product, because all of these were specially made, designed to order, right? So this is why when you're in Amaji and you get the CNC machine is working and all this other good stuff, they're even there. They're building things specific to size and shape that's required, like specifically. You can't be a little bit off here, a little bit off there, or round instead of square, or you can't do it. There is no option but to do it exactly to this specification. And that would be the point, and that's how Sean's gonna find this stuff. But on that, I think we're pretty much done for tonight. And I'm really happy with this. This has made a big difference on how we're gonna go forward, not only with this scene, but going along and the kind of things that um, Logan, Olivia, and Andrew are going to talk about, as well as the kind of stuff that Sean and Matthew will be talking about while they're on their way to Amaji, once they figure out exactly where the address is, which of course is something Sean has. Well, okay, he would have in his phone, but I mean, yeah, Olivia and Andrew being older people, well, they got a phone book, a paper phone book, right? Because they were an old couple. So they do things the old-fashioned way, and because they do it the old-fashioned way, they're able to find these things. So I mean, at some point, um, you know, maybe Olivia is gonna go to the computer room and go grab, you know, the phone book, or maybe they got it, propping something up in one of the rooms. It's holding up the corner of a shelf or a box or something. I don't know. We will find out. But that will have to be on another day, my friends. So have yourselves all a great weekend. Don't forget to share, like, hey, subscribe if you think our stuff is good for you. If you're enjoying this, I'll be happy to see you next time. Bye.